You're listening to the Wells Report, which will return in 1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world, this is the Wells Report. Good evening. What do we do on this broadcast? We report the news. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We depropagandize the mainstream media. We also make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion, yours and mine. Let's share. Let's compare. Let's debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. And good evening. I know. Where have I been? I get it. I understand completely. But things are slowly stabilizing, and the Wells Report will continue its unending march to try to bring you the real news so that you can have real information, so you can make real decisions instead of the mainstream media propaganda mill that gets worse every day. We will be finishing strong here. I'm talking about finishing the 2024 election cycle. We'll be finishing strong here as things are stabilizing. More about that coming up a little bit later on the broadcast. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about Hurricane Milton. Milton is a serious storm. Milton started just to the west of the Yucatan Peninsula in the Gulf of Mexico, and went from being a relatively mundane hurricane, Category 1, going from Category 1 earlier today to a Category 5. It's a powerhouse. And USA Today reports it like this. Hurricane Milton has sustained winds of 180 miles an hour. 180 as it rolls across the Gulf of Mexico, bound for what could be a devastating crash along Florida's already storm-ripped coast. The National Hurricane Center, in its 5 p.m. advisory, said Milton had reached those rare wind speeds 3 hours after warning the hurricane had explosively intensified to 175 miles an hour. Its wind speeds have increased by 95 miles an hour in 24 hours. And by 130 miles an hour in just 36 hours. This thing blew up fast. The storm is now about 675 miles from Florida, rapidly strengthening from Category 2 to 5 in just a few hours today. By tomorrow, the intensity should be dictated by what's called an eye wall replacement cycle, which will likely cause the system to gradually weaken but then grow larger. The center has issued hurricane watches across portions of Florida and warned that parts of the state could be overwhelmed by life-threatening storm surges, flooding rain, and damaging winds. Milton is forecast to remain an extremely dangerous hurricane for the next couple of days. Some weakening is forecast before the hurricane reaches the west coast of Florida. That's the Gulf side. But Milton is likely to be a large and powerful hurricane at landfall in Florida, according to Hurricane Center specialist Jack Bevan, writing in the advisory. Rainfall is expected to total some 5 to 10 inches in some areas of the state that were saturated even before the storm comes anywhere close to Florida. 5 to 10 inches in the state. Isolated communities could see 15 inches of rain. The Hurricane Center said some areas will be slammed with heavy rainfall well ahead of Milton's arrival, likely later on Tuesday through Wednesday night, according to the National Hurricane Center. A potentially deadly storm surge of 10 to 15 feet is possible For Tampa and other coastal communities, it was around half of that. There is information here that we have from the Weather Channel that filed this report that they were kind enough to let us use. Let's get a look at that as we bring you news of Milton tonight on the Wells Report.
Take a look at Hurricane Milton, a Category 5 storm. Look at the winds up to 180 miles per hour. There have only been 8 other hurricanes in recorded history that have gotten to 180 or stronger. It is going to weaken a bit before it makes its way to the Florida Peninsula, but we are still expecting a major hurricane as it makes landfall, and it should maintain hurricane status even as it emerges into the Atlantic Ocean. Already, we do have hurricane warnings and tropical storm warnings that have been posted for Florida as we're expecting landfall here. And again, that quick movement across the peninsula means that hurricane force winds are likely going to be felt across all of central Florida. Storm surge values, these have been adjusted slightly upward with 10 to 15 feet of storm surge expected for Tampa Bay and points to the south, which is where we are expecting the landfall, likely at or maybe just to the north of Tampa Bay. We are also expecting some heavy rainfall to move across the state. As much as 5 to 7 inches of rain could fall. There could be some locally heavy amounts, much more than that.
Yeah, so this is a very serious storm. And yeah, it may indeed grow weaker before it hits Florida, but it's still a major, major storm. Here are some developments from USA Today. Milton was centered 675 miles southwest of Tampa late this afternoon, moving east at 10 miles per hour. The storm's path places the center of the cone of uncertainty in the Tampa Bay area. The White House and President Joe Biden has been briefed on the preparations for Milton's arrival and on the ongoing response and recovery efforts following Hurricane Helene. The Hurricane Center raised potential storm surge heights in some locations and extended warnings northward along the Atlantic coast in its 5 p.m. advisory. Storm surge is expected along the eastern Florida Panhandle and south through the Florida Keys with as much as 15 feet in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay International Airport will suspend flight operations at 9 a.m. That happens tomorrow and will reopen when safe to do so. The airport is not a shelter for people or vehicles, according to authorities. Lower wind speeds are no consolation. One seemingly encouraging aspect of Milton's frightening development is forecasters' belief that the hurricane's intensity will diminish before reaching Florida's west coast from its current Category 5 to perhaps as low as a Category 3. But remember, that is still a very, very serious storm. Category 3 hurricanes are nothing to play around with. Jamie Rome, the deputy director of the National Hurricane Center, said that's actually not good news, the weakening of this storm. Speaking to CNN, Rome said that Milton's winds may decrease from the current 175 miles an hour and could conceivably dip below the 130 mile per hour threshold for a Category 4 storm. But at the same time, the hurricane will get bigger and become more damaging. Rome said, we saw this during Hurricane Helene. These big storms, these large-sized storms produce more impact. So this growth in size is going to more than compensate for the reduction in intensity. And it's going to cause problems because you're going to get a broader swath of impact. And then things like storm surge are actually made worse by the bigger size. Rome pointed out that the west side of Florida Peninsula is particularly susceptible to storm damage, as was evidenced late last month by the impact of Hurricane Helene, even though it only delivered a glancing blow to the area. The 1-2 combination of both major hurricanes, so close to each other, could be crippling, he said. In this case, it's going to be a direct impact, a direct shot, and more powerful at that, said Rome. We're going to have potentially catastrophic wind damage over a densely populated portion of the Florida Peninsula. Plus, the storm surge is going to be worse than we saw in Helene in some areas. Vulnerable Tampa Bay is facing large storm surges. The Tampa Bay metro area has been deemed the nation's most vulnerable to storm surge, and now it's facing a potentially deadly calamity that could inflict more than $200 billion in damages. Hurricane Milton, now at Category 5, is on track to smash into the region. That's going to happen Wednesday and bring a storm surge of up to 15 feet. Some key factors could change before then, including the hurricane's path and level of intensity as it encounters wind shear. But the possibility of large parts of the area being flooded with seawater, perhaps the worst such inundation in more than a century is very real. A severe storm with the right track orientation will cause an enormous buildup of water that will become trapped in the bay and inundate large areas of Tampa and St. Petersburg, said a 2015 report from the risk modeling firm of Karen Clark and Company. 50% of the population lives on ground elevations at less than 10 feet. It doesn't take a math wizard, and I'm certainly not that, to be able to tell you that that is some very serious flooding. That's 10 feet, but this is going to be 15 feet. Good heavens, 50% of the population lives on ground that is less than 15 feet. Samuel Eames spent the weekend buying batteries, canned food as Hurricane Milton formed in the Gulf of Mexico. He's 70 years old. He lives just a few miles from Flagler Beach on the eastern coast of Florida. The longtime resident said it's rare for his community to experience hurricane-force winds from the west, but considering Milton's power, he's concerned about the potential damage. The weather guys here have been on the air for 20 to 25 years. They have not dealt with a storm this powerful, said Eames. They're not kidding around. Today, the Navy veteran and retired construction manager said he intends to pick up key prescriptions and buy a pair of knee-high boots before hunkering down in his home. I don't know that that's a good idea. I don't know that that's a good idea at all. In the wake of Hurricane Helene, swaths of the state have been facing thunderstorms. In Eames' neighborhood, standing water could be seen pretty much everywhere. Forecasters are predicting 6 to 12 inches of rain falling over Flagler, Florida, and several surrounding counties throughout Thursday. I'm not going to say that I'm worried, but I am a little apprehensive, said Eames. Well, yeah, I guess you should be. Remember, the actual hurricane warning extends almost to Cape Canaveral. That's across the entire state. I used to live in Orlando, Florida. When we would get hurricanes, we would get thumped really, really hard, but nothing like this. This is a situation where this is going to be a devastating blow if it stays on track, even if it reduces down to a Category 3 hurricane. What you need to keep in mind is this, that Category 3 hurricanes have sustained winds somewhere around 130 miles an hour. 130 mile an hour winds if it's a Category 3. Well, think about this for just a couple of seconds. I have told you that based on my own experience with race cars, that anything over 130 miles an hour changes the way the air hits you, or in the case that I'm talking about, the car. It gets mean at 130, and it starts really doing some very, very heavy things. I'm telling you, this is not a storm to mess with. And like I said, this one is there's not much in the way of Florida to break up a hurricane. There just isn't. There are no mountains. It's flat. It's basically flat. And this storm is going to cross the entire Florida peninsula, come out on the other side in the Atlantic Ocean, and still be a hurricane, a Category 1. But as soon as it hits the Gulf Stream on the eastern coast of Florida, it will re-strengthen. Where will it go then? No one knows. But should there be a Category 6 for new turbocharged hurricanes, ask USA Today. This is because they keep following in that very important thing that has been crossing our news channels and so on and so forth, that being, of course, that climate change is screwing up everything. That's not the case. A Category 6 hurricane, I really don't know that you need one. Hurricane Camille had winds of 200 miles an hour, and she was not a Category 6. She was also a much smaller storm, because it would be based on the fact that the wind speed was so fast. The Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale starts at 74 miles an hour for a Category 1 storm, goes up to Category 5 for any hurricane with sustained speeds of 157 miles an hour and above. The stunningly fast rise of Milton's wind speeds, increasing by 130 to 180 miles an hour in 36 hours, has once again raised the question of whether there should be a new category for these bigger turbocharged hurricanes. So there you have it. That is Hurricane Milton. And if you know somebody in Florida, what I would suggest you do is I would suggest that you give them a call and make sure that they have a place to go, and make sure that they go there. This is the Wells Report. More in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. There are other reports regarding Milton and people taking it seriously. NBC has one of those. Let's take a look this afternoon.
You're in some of the traffic, right, as people are looking to get out. What are you seeing? How are the roads? How's the evacuation?
Well, I can tell you there's a lot of people who are making their way out of St. Petersburg, and this is where we've spent the last couple of hours, Hallie, and I want to talk about that in just a moment. But for those who are just joining us, I want to make it clear I'm not driving. My producer, Aaron, is driving next to me. I am in the passenger seat. I've got the window down, and it's probably hard to tell, but there is a steady stream of cars. My phone going off. Know that there is, it says, a hurricane warning in effect, mandatory evacuation, zone A, B, and C. And I actually was just on the phone not that long ago with St. Petersburg Fire and Rescue to kind of get a sense of context. When was the last time they did Zone C evacuations? And he said, at least not since Irma, to his recollection, and that was in 2017. So, Hallie, in terms of what we are seeing on the ground, I'm seeing a lot of people who are taking this more seriously than they've ever taken any hurricane in their life. I have been covering hurricanes in Tampa at NBC for a few years now, and I've never seen people taking it this seriously. A lot of concerns that the luck that they have had for almost 100 years might be running out, with life-threatening storm surge on the way. And then, of course, a lot of questions on what the wind is going to do to these vulnerable communities with all that debris. Allie?
It feels very stark when you put it the way that experts have, Marissa, that this could be the worst storm that nearly anybody alive has seen in and around Tampa Bay. Marissa Parr, thank you. Buckled up in the passenger seat. It's a good note. We'll check back in with you. I know. Thanks, Marissa. Appreciate it.
All right. So there you have it. That is NBC's look at this storm as it comes ashore. And once again, if you have people that live in Florida, make sure you get in touch with them. Make sure that they know you're still there. And for goodness sakes, you might want to put a couple of bucks away just in case they need them, because this is a serious storm. And there's no guarantee that it's going to weaken. This eye replacement thing does cause hurricanes to change and metamorphosize, or they go through a metamorphosis rather. And so when that happens, the storm does weaken from a standpoint of just overall wind speed, because that eye becomes disrupted. That is the center of rotation. And that is actually the powerhouse that generates these big wind speeds. And when that eye begins to say, for example, restructure itself, then the pressures inside it change. And what ends up happening is that it essentially reforms. Now, if there's a path of warm water in front of Hurricane Milton after this eye wall changes itself, then it could re-strengthen. So certainly Category 3 and maybe Category 4 hurricane. And once that happens, then all bets are off. Like they just had in the reporting of the Weather Channel. I mean, this is going to be a 15-foot storm surge, and most people in Tampa Bay live 10 feet off of sea level. I mean, when I tell you that Florida is flat, I'm not kidding. It is absolutely almost entirely flat. And nothing is going to stop this hurricane. Nothing. There's no geographical barrier in the way. So if you do have friends in Florida, may I suggest that you call them and give them a simple 2-word message. Get out. Get out. There is one little piece of information that I have that many people, and you're certainly not going to hear any reporting on it, but there is a Florida State Guard. And I'm sure those guys are going to be very, very busy for the next couple of weeks. I know that when the Texas State Guard rolls out on one of these hurricanes, Hurricane Harvey being the most recent one, or actually it was Hurricane Laura, that there's a lot of work to do. There certainly is. And I certainly hope the Florida State Guard handles it. It's a brand new unit. It's a brand new enterprise, and I certainly wish them luck as they start working to help out their fellow Floridians. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells, thanking you very much for being a part of the show. Back with more in just a moment.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. I am John David Wells. As you know, hurricanes have been kind of a big deal. They've started in the Gulf of Mexico, and they have laid waste to much of America, specifically the Southeast. And Hurricane Milton looks like it's going to be the next one. This out of Walnut Island River Park in North Carolina. Typically, Mitch Hampton leads tourist groups on whitewater rafting adventures along the speedier stretches of the French Broad River, just north of Asheville. On a recent afternoon, he helped paddle a raft filled with 2 volunteers, a North Carolina State Bureau of Investigations agent, and Anna, a 6-year-old black German shepherd, trained to detect human remains. This along the banks of the tributary of the river. They're looking for bodies. The raft sped downstream in the current, turned upstream to slide by a fallen tree. Anna's ears perked up. Her black paws reached out on the raft's bow. Hampton and others paddled to the shoreline to let Anna jump out, her nose to the ground. Hampton, a longtime river guide and volunteer at the local fire department, has lent his skills, rafts, and employees to the grisly effort of recovering bodies from catastrophic floods in western North Carolina, where I was raised. Since September 29th, 2 days after the floods, Hampton and his team have paddled along miles of the French Broad River and recovered multiple bodies. He declined to give an exact number, saying many of the victims have yet to be identified. Hampton follows one self-imposed rule, he says, that helps ease the pain of the macabre task. I always think of myself, don't look at their faces. That's what really gets me. The floods unleashed in North Carolina and other states after Helene have led to one of the deadliest national disasters or natural disasters in recent U.S. history, with at least 228 confirmed deaths across the Southeast, including 115 in North Carolina alone. Scores are still missing. As floodwaters receded, they revealed their victims along the muddied, mangled landscape, bodies tangled in the roots of overturned trees, under crushed roofs, in submerged cars, and wedged into riverbanks. There is reporting, and CNN with Jake Tapper have absolutely contributed to this. Let's take a look at what they reported earlier today on the Wells Report.
Attorney General Stein, given the urgency of the language issued Wednesday night, I have to ask, where's the government response? I mean, people in Asheville and the surrounding areas are wondering. We get that they get that the roads are washed out, et cetera, but there are still so many people in need of rescue and help and basic necessities, and we're days later here.
Yeah, it is a desperate situation. It's the biggest, most unprecedented storm in Western North Carolina history. It's exceptionally difficult to get the material, the water, the diapers, the food that folks desperately need, because the roads are many times washed out entirely. There have been airlifts going on by the National Guard, and the DOT crews are working day and night to clear roads and get them back in service so that folks can get the stuff that they need to survive. We're also still in active rescue up in the valleys of the mountain ranges. The roads are completely gone, or there are dozens and dozens of trees that have fallen across the road, and so they can't get out, and those folks are having trouble with their power. The communications systems are down, but folks are doing everything in their power, whether it's the National Guard, whether it's the Department of Transportation, whether it's the power line crews or the cell phone and cable providers. Everybody is doing everything they can to move mountains to try to help people who are suffering in the mountains.
I don't doubt that the people assigned to this are doing everything they can. But Asheville resident Mark Essig yesterday told CNN that the response from local officials in North Carolina has been inadequate. He says he understands the roads are impassable, that semis are having trouble getting in, but he said, quote, "For God's sake, they have airplanes. This is coming up more than 2 full days after the storm has passed, and to not have water available to people who don't have water is astonishingly incompetent in my view," unquote. I'm sure you've been hearing similar concerns from the western part of your state. Do you need more from the federal government? Do you need more from the Pentagon? Do you need more from President Biden?
Well, Governor Cooper declared a state of emergency before the storm even hit, so that we would be ready to get a declaration issued. And I thank President Biden for issuing that declaration. FEMA is already on the ground.
More than 1,000 people have taken refuge in shelters. Governor Cooper said the state would be setting up mass feeding sites. In many communities where water systems were shut down, residents are being urged to boil water or use bottled water if they can find it. How much longer is this going to be the quality of life in Western North Carolina?
This is going to be a devastating event that's going to take us weeks, months, and years to recover. I mean, some of the water systems have been destroyed. You can't just create a new water system overnight. It takes time to build that infrastructure. Some of the water systems need power in order to be in operation. You have to get the power lines back on. It is absolutely devastating. It's without precedent, and everyone is doing all in their power to try to bring back a quality of life that the people of Western North Carolina deserve. We're, of course, trying to save lives. Like, we're not in the recovery mode. We're still in rescue mode as we transition into recovery mode. And this is going to be an incredibly hard job. I want to thank you for carrying the story. Part of the problem is TV hasn't been able to be on the ground to show America how devastating this is. And we need everyone in this country to come to our aid. We need Congress to meet and pass an emergency relief bill. It's going to be billions of dollars to bring Western North Carolina back. Folks can give at nc.gov/donate. Folks can give blood in their home communities, and that will benefit all of us. We really need this entire nation to rally around the people of Western North Carolina.
North Carolina Attorney General Josh Stein, thank you so much. Please don't be afraid to give a holler if you need more from the federal government and they are not providing it. Appreciate it, and our thoughts and prayers and best wishes go out to the good citizens of the Tar Heel State.
Yeah, it's not just the North Carolina state government that's struggling. As you know, there have been a lot of things said regarding what the Biden administration has been doing, and that Biden administration situation is creating some very interesting exchanges regarding what has been going on. As a matter of fact, there was a very tense exchange between Peter Doocy and Karine Jean-Pierre, and I'd like to bring that to you here. So let me see if I can get that going as we talk a little bit more about this. There has
Let's
been
head to the White House.
Here we go.
Peter Doocy
Take a
is
look at
asking
this.
questions of Karine Jean-Pierre. Let's listen.
Home. Who are wrongfully detained and held hostage. And again, frankly, we have had an extraordinary record of doing just that. And that's going to be the president's top priority.
And on this issue of funding, the administration has money to send to Lebanon without Congress coming back. But Congress does have to come back to approve money to send to people in North Carolina. Do I have that right?
Here's what I'm going to be very clear about. The president and the vice president has had a robust whole of government response to this. Hundreds of millions of dollars. I said it at the top, more than $200 million that we have directly put towards survivors here for disaster help. And that's because of this president's commitment to make sure that we are there for communities that are impacted. We take this very seriously again. We take this very seriously. And before the hurricane hit, we pre-positioned more than 1,500 federal folks on the ground to help. And so we have made sure that every state has gotten their storm requested emergency declaration. They requested it, and we made sure they received it. We've taken this very seriously. More than $200 million that we have provided to the impacted areas. But instead, people want to do disinformation, misinformation, which is dangerous, because then when folks on the ground hear that, they may not want to ask for the help that they need. That is there for them. That's our focus here.
But President Biden is fond of saying, show me your budget and I will tell you what you value. If he's got money for people in Lebanon right now, without Congress having to come back, what does it say about his values? There's not enough money right now for people in North Carolina who need it. That's not misinformation.
Wait, no, that is your whole premise of the question is misinformation, sir. What you don't, yes, it's misinformation.
Is there money to send Lebanon right now?
I just mentioned to you that we provided more than $200 million to folks who are impacted in the area, and I just shared with you that people are deciding not to. People are deciding not to.
Wait. To Congress that there's not enough money to help people.
We're
in North
talking
Carolina
about the SBA disaster loan.
That's money for people in North Carolina,
and that's important. And people in North Carolina need that. Wait, this is nothing new. Peter, this is nothing new. Congress comes together, they provide money, millions of dollars for disaster relief. We're asking them to do the job that they have been doing for some time.
From a letter that President Biden
doing
sent to
for
Johnson,
some
McConnell,
time.
Schumer, and Jeffries. The president's letter is not misinformation. Would you agree?
No, the way you're asking me the question is misinformation. There is money that we are allocating to the impacted areas, and there's money there to help people who truly need it. There are survivors who need the funding, and it's there.
That you don't like misinformation.
I said that, I actually said we have the money available to help survivors of Hurricane Helene and also Hurricane Milton. Now, there's going to be a shortfall, right? Because we don't know how bad Hurricane Milton is going to be. And so we're going to need additional funding. That's
exactly what I just asked about. And you said it was misinformation. Yes.
What you're asking me is why Congress needs to come back and do their job. That's what you're asking me. Congress needs to come back and do their job and provide extra assistance, extra funding to disaster relief fund. That's what Congress needs to do, and we're going to continue to urge that. You may not want that, but that's okay. That's what this president wants, and that's what the vice president wants. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, that was not a great moment for Karine Jean-Pierre again. She simply just got angry and stomped off. And that's awful. And here is what's going on. And I've been looking at this. I've been looking at this ever since this story came up. And it has to do with this. The FEMA does have disaster funding available. It does. Is it enough? No. Does Congress need to get together and see what they can do about increasing that money? Yes. But there is money available and so on. As a matter of fact, there's a story from Fox Business News that I'm going to get to in just a couple of moments where the Inspector General of DHS says there are billions of dollars lying around that FEMA could use, which brings up another part of this story. So there is disaster funding. Now, is it sufficient for the disasters that have been hitting the United States of America? No, they haven't. And yeah, Mayorkas said that they were going to run out of money, and then we send hundreds of millions of dollars to Lebanon, and we take care of student loans, and we take care of illegal migrants coming to the United States of America, the people of North Carolina and the Southeast. Remember, it's not just North Carolina. It's the entire Southeast got $200 million. That's about $750 per person. $750. This goes on with the Maui wildfires in Lahaina, where the people got $700. Their houses reduced to ashes, and they got $700. Meanwhile, immigrants in these United States get telephones, they get hotel rooms, they get credit cards to use for their daily expenses. Where is that kind of support? And that's the point that these people who are saying, hey, wait a minute, why is FEMA sending all this money to, say, for example, illegal migrants and so on? Well, it's budgeting. So this money comes out of different buckets. So when Donald Trump says, or anybody else says, hey, wait a minute, we're sending all this money, Peter Doocy and from Fox News, we're sending this money to Lebanon, $174 million. Why are we able to do that without Congress, but we can't do this without Congress? That's a good question. And KJP got frustrated with the whole thing and stomped off. Well, that's not what you do. That's not what you do. It is a problem. It is a perception problem. And it's a real one. The government of the United States, as I have said for years, spends more time on political imperatives as opposed to real governance. Real governance is taking care of the people of the Southeast with more than $750. That's ridiculous. And that simply has to change. And when KJP says, okay, FEMA has the money, well, they don't actually have the money because Mayorkas said that and blah, 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 blah. Well, there are other intrigues about that. What if the Inspector General of the DHS is correct? He's out with a story that happens to be on Fox Business Channel that talks a little bit about how there may be $8.3 billion untapped that FEMA and DHS has available. Well, if that's the case, then how come the people of the Southeast are only getting $750? This is something that really needs more closer scrutiny, and we will do so. This is the Wells Report. Back with more of that coming up in just a moment.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Fox Business News is out with an article that came out this afternoon. And it goes like this. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is facing new firestorms of criticism for claiming that FEMA is out of disaster funds. Just as the DHS Inspector General released a report saying that FEMA is sitting on at least $8.3 billion in untapped, unspent funds. Earlier this month, October 7th to be exact, and this, by the way, from Fox News, we are expecting another hurricane hitting, said Mayorkas. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season and what is imminent. The controversy surfaced today as Hurricane Milton has become a Category 5 storm. Massive evacuations are underway in Florida, still struggling from Hurricane Helene, as is much of the Southeast. Analysts say that FEMA cannot tap unspent appropriations from long-ago crises, so the money sits frozen as 600 people are reportedly still missing from Hurricane Helene. At least 220 have died. Entire towns wiped off the map. Helene is the most catastrophic hurricane to hit the U.S. since Katrina in 2005. Budget experts warn this new firestorm shows FEMA has been turned into a slush fund that the agency and the Biden-Harris White House can spend at will. If that's the case, why aren't they spending it? That's the gist of all of this. An August 2024 report from the Homeland Security Office of the Inspector General noted as of October of 2022, FEMA estimated that 847 disaster declarations with approximately $73 billion in unliquidated funds remain open. The report also says $8.3 billion in unliquidated obligations was for disasters declared in 2012 or earlier that analysts say could be turned or returned to help people battling survival in disasters now. Now, this is something that I'm sure that Alejandro Mayorkas was not aware of. So this is news to him as well. Just to be fair, let's take a look at this. Remember, this government budgeting for things is very intricate. I've been trying to figure out personally where the money that DHS is spending on illegal migrants is coming from. Is it this Indeed slush fund that people are saying, this unspent money that just floats around in FEMA's coffers at some point to where money just appears? Is that where this money comes from? These unliquidated funds that are just sitting there. And if that's the case, then why aren't they spending it? And that's going to get some people in trouble. That's going to be a problem for the Biden-Harris administration, the Biden administration specifically, because if that's the case, then why were the payments to the Lahaina fire victims so low in Hawaii? Why are the payments of $750 so low in the Southeast? If that's the case, then since people are leaving Florida hand over fist to get out of the way of Milton, will there be FEMA funds available? And will there be government takeovers of hotels further inland for those people from Florida to land? Will they be getting cards? Will they be getting phones? Will they be doing all of those things? No one knows. FEMA responded to a record number of storms. Last year, the U.S. saw 28 storms that caused more than $1 billion in damage. It's hit the $1 billion threshold 19 times so far in 2024. Since 2001, reports show that FEMA nearly ran out of money in its disaster relief fund 9 times. Congressional Republicans are already hammering the Biden administration's response to Hurricane Helene. FEMA is under fire for spending $1.1 billion on sheltering and aiding illegal aliens, according to the details of the government documents. Representative Nancy Mace has introduced a bill to end FEMA's shelter program for illegal migrants. It raises the question, with the Biden-Harris White House turning the disaster agency FEMA into an adjunct agency on the border crisis, is that a tacit administration? Its manufactured border crisis really is a disaster. Now, that is an opinion in the midst of a news story. This is not what I just read to you. Is not a circumstance that is being dictated as an editorial. So it's bias, is what it is. So where is all this money? Where is all the money? Is the DHS Inspector General correct? Did Alejandro Mayorkas know anything about this slush fund? If he didn't know about this slush fund, then where is he getting the money to support illegal migrants? These are all questions that have to be answered. Why is it that Congress has to meet in order to send out disaster funds to people in the Southeast because of Hurricane Helene, but somehow they don't have to meet to go ahead and appropriate money for illegal migrants? Would there be as much money for illegal migrants if the Congress had to actually appropriate it? The answer is no, because there would be no appropriations coming out of the Republican-controlled House of Representatives. So once again, where is the money being spent on the migrants coming from, if not FEMA? And if it is from FEMA, where is that money when they're saying they don't have enough money for hurricanes? Now, I did explain the different buckets of money in different budget slots. Okay, and that's what KJP and that's what the administration is saying. My goodness gracious, this money comes from different budgets. Well, hold on a second. If it does, then what about this $8.6 billion? The plot thickens. This is the Wells Report. I am John David Wells. Stick around. More of this coming up in just a couple of moments. By the way, Kamala Harris appeared on 60 Minutes. What happened? We'll share some of it.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. What do we do on this broadcast? We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We de-propagandize the mainstream media, and that is hard. It gets worse every day because we're going to elect a president in 30 days. And people are abandoning journalistic principles and moving forward with editorialization of news, and it drives me crazy, which is one of the reasons why I do this broadcast. Now, that being said, we also offer commentary. Commentary is not news. We differentiate between news and commentary on this broadcast. And yeah, you have your opinion, I have my opinions. Sometimes they agree, sometimes they disagree. Let's share, let's compare, let's debate. It is the Wells Report. So Vice President Kamala Harris is in the midst of a self-described media blitz, and that included an interview on 60 Minutes. It happened over the weekend. Now, I can't play you a lot of this, mainly because the material on 60 Minutes is copywritten. However, this was a part of the interview that they have essentially handed out for people to use as they see fit. And this was Kamala Harris's response when she was asked a question regarding Israel and Lebanon and so on. Check this out and tell me what you think she said.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
Do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
Okay, so she didn't answer the second question, and I still don't know what she said in the first question. Now, that's not me just being difficult with Kamala Harris. That's me honestly saying, what is she talking about? And why is it when she was asked whether or not she considered Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel a real ally, why didn't she answer that question? That was something that I have noticed in the Biden-Harris, shall we say, era, where you condemn Israel by faint praise unless you're condemning Israel out in the open. But the common denominator is essentially casting aspersions on Israel. And I'm still trying to figure out just exactly why they're doing that. But that's another story for another day. Harris gave a rare sit-down interview to 60 Minutes where Bill Whitaker, asked whether the U.S. has any sway over Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as the war against Hamas continues. Today is the one-year anniversary of the October 7th attacks. The aid that we've given Israel allowed Israel to defend itself against 200 ballistic missiles that were just meant to attack the Israelis and the people of Israel. And when you think about the threat that Hamas Hezbollah presents Iran, I think that is without any question our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those attacks. That's gibberish. She continued. Now, the work we do diplomatically with the leadership with Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles, which include the need for humanitarian aid, the need for the war to end, the need for the deal to be done, which would release the hostages and create a ceasefire. And we're not going to stop in terms of putting that pressure on Israel in the region, including Arab leaders. Okay, so this is supposed to be a news article that delves then into editorialization. The lengthy word salad and her inability to commit to Israel as an ally shocked and frustrated several ex-users after the clip premiered. Kamala's asked about Israel, can't make any sense at all. Kamala is like a running team that's behind and can't throw the ball. After hiding her for months, they're now panicking and doing interviews everywhere, but that's going to get her behind more, said Outkick founder Clay Travis, who is a partisan. Okay, he's biased. And he is a plain supporter of Donald Trump. Former ESPN anchor Sage Steele, also on the Donald Trump bandwagon, said, someone please interpret what she just said there. People talk this way when they absolutely have nothing substantive to say because they know next to nothing about the subject at hand, said Federalist senior editor John Daniel Davidson. Shocking, said Fox News host Mark Levin. He is a Jewish American and was trying to figure out just exactly why Kamala Harris wouldn't say that Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel were allies of the United States. Comedian Tim Young commented, 60 Minutes asked Kamala if Netanyahu ever listens to us after we gave Israel weapons and money. Kamala replies with a pile of word salad. It would be easier if she just said no world leader respects or listens to her, even after we hand out money. Okay. All right, he's a comedian. This is the real Kamala, and she is no friend of Israel, said California Representative Darrell Issa. New York Representative Elise Stefanik wrote, Israel is taking out Iran-backed terrorists across the Middle East, making the world safer for Israel and the United States. Yet Kamala Harris refuses to say that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is a strong ally to America. And then she goes on to say that Kamala is unfit to be the president of the United States. During the interview, Harris dodged repeated questions from Whitaker over her support for Israel. Whitaker asked, do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu? I think with all due respect, that's the part where I said she evaded the answer. I think with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes. The problem with that answer, it totally disavows the Israeli government. And so why wouldn't she be supporting the Israeli government? That is a question that must be answered. And Bill Whitaker, to his credit, did try to ask serious questions, but kept getting unserious answers, at least in my opinion, which is why we're talking over here. Back to the news. Harris was also criticized last month, or what is supposed to be news. This is a biased report from Fox News, okay? Actually, Fox Business News. Harris was also criticized last month for providing scant details about whether she would change her policies on Israel as president. We need to get this deal done. We need to get it done immediately, she responded when asked by the National Association of Black Journalists, referring to getting the hostages home. That is my position, and that is my policy. Well, okay, but if you undercut Israel in their need to get rid of these terrorists that will slaughter them at will, then how do you expect them to believe that you have any interest in their national interests at all? Kamala Harris, please answer that question. And she won't. Now, is that anti-Semitism? Is that anti-Jewish bigotry? I don't know. I have my thoughts, but I'm interested in yours. 817-379-2172. So she's going out and doing these interviews. Are they helping her? I'm not exactly sure they are. And I believe this idea that that the word salad situation has taken hold. And if that is indeed the case, then how in heaven's name is she going to be able to escape that without being very specific on very serious and pointed policy questions? I don't know. I don't know. I also don't know whether it matters. Does this matter? Will people vote in droves for Kamala Harris even though she doesn't do the things required to be the president of the United States in the midst of a campaign? In other words, yeah, this is once again, this is the
Prime Minister.
This is the basement strategy that worked for President Biden. Keep him out of the way. Don't let him answer questions. Don't show crowd shots. These are the things that keep happening. And I'm still trying to figure out whether or not they honestly believe this is going to work. I'm also interested in the other aspect of this. When I say they, I'm talking about Democrat Party leadership. Should they be hiding Kamala Harris just to win this election? Should they do all the things they've done, which is to essentially choreograph every move she makes, including this interview on 60 Minutes? You got to remember, the conversation you saw on 60 Minutes over the weekend isn't the entire conversation. It's edited. And when you edit those conversations, especially, and CBS is notorious for doing this, what else did she say? What else did she say that CBS edited out? Was it extraneous material that didn't get to the point of the story? Possibly. Or was it damaging information that Kamala Harris spewed that CBS wants to keep from you in an effort to continue to hope that you'll believe that Kamala Harris is a serious presidential candidate? That's the problem with 60 Minutes. That's why it's not a hard news show, because it doesn't really deal in fact. It tells stories. And that's always been 60 Minutes' stock and trade. 60 Minutes is, okay, they talk to newsmakers and they talk about news stories, but their main drive is to tell a story, not necessarily to report the facts. Is it good? Yeah, it's good. 60 Minutes is a magnificent show. But is it hard news? No, it isn't. And when you are in a situation where the mainstream media is driven by people who are 90% Democrats, and when you realize that these people will do whatever's necessary to forward a Democrat agenda instead of a journalistic one, is anything they say regarding this story worthy of your consideration? Now, if that is the case, if what they're doing and they have damaged their credibility, I'm talking about the mainstream media, if the mainstream media has damaged its credibility to this level, and it isn't, and there is no real reason for you to pay any attention to it any longer unless you want to hear their opinion, then how in heaven's name will Kamala Harris be able to actually get substantive answers out to the people of the United States, which is required to be the president of the United States? Unless you're sure that people are just going to vote for Kamala because she's a woman. These are tough questions, aren't they? Do you have answers? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. So in the last two election cycles, we've seen some very strange campaigning on the part of Democrat candidates. Is that going to continue, and will it be successful again? Back with more in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. So we're talking about your typical presidential election campaign and the one practiced by Democrat leadership regarding Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. The hide the football strategy, the basement strategy. Well, what's going on the other side of the conversation? And by the way, one of the toughest things about me doing this broadcast is trying not to appear partisan. And when I'm talking about, say, for example, politics, I base my political opinion making on the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, Federalist Papers, and so when a political party is at odds with those documents, then it may appear that I'm partisan. In this particular case, what I'm doing is I am holding Kamala Harris to a journalistic standard that we have seen in the past with successful presidential candidates. All of them, in fact, until Joe Biden. And once again, are they doing the same thing? So Kamala Harris is asked about Benjamin Netanyahu being a strong ally of the United States, and she evades. This is a guy who did not evade the question. It is J.D. Vance speaking on the first anniversary of the Hamas war.
In the United States, there are literal pro-Hamas protesters around the country calling for a ceasefire. And what they're really calling for is for a unilateral surrender. I have a different message. The only way this war is going to end is when Hamas gives up its arms and stops the fighting and lets the hostages come home. That is the way to end this conflict. Now, my friends, you know this. This is not just a dispute about territory or borders. This is a war between a peaceful nation and terrorists who want to exterminate the Jewish people and eradicate the state of Israel forever. I know there are a lot of Americans who will go to protests and chant this slogan, from the river to the sea, without knowing what it actually means. And so I'd ask my Americans who chant that terrible thing, ask yourself, what river and what sea? When you say from the river to the sea, what you are fundamentally promoting and fundamentally celebrating is the end of a Jewish state altogether. Educate yourselves about what you're actually saying. It's a disgraceful slogan that is going to lead to the genocide of millions of people, and no person, no American of good conscience stands for it. Americans believe that Israel, we believe that the Jewish state has a right to exist, and Donald Trump and I will fight for that every single day when we're in the White House.
No ambiguity, no evasion, steadfast support for Israel. So which is the winning formula? In times past, plain-speaking people have a tendency to get elected. Non-plain-speaking people, well, are written off as politicians. Now, you take a look at that and you tell me what you think. By the way, Vance is talking about from the river to the sea. The Jordan River, which borders Israel on its eastern side, and the Mediterranean, which borders Israel on the western side of the country. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Okay, what about Israel? Well, there's no Israel if Palestine is free, is there? And if there's no Israel, what about the Jews? Where do they go? And that's the ignorance that J.D. Vance is talking about Americans when they put on their fake Hamas headscarves and their fake Hamas outrage, and they go out and talk about fake Hamas things that they would never, ever do or live with if they actually had to. I've long said that people that are arrested on college campuses for breaking whatever laws that they may have broken, trespassing, etc., should do community service. In Gaza, I still think that. This is the Wells Report.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. I am John David Wells. It's been a year since Hamas terrorists crashed through the border of the Gaza Strip into Israel and started slaughtering every Jew they could find. It was horrific. It was atrocious. It was a crime against humanity. It occurred when there was a ceasefire in place between Israel and Gaza, and Israel and Hamas. And the lion's share of pressure to stop the war is not on Hamas. The lion's share is on Israel. And it's inexcusable on a worldwide level. This from the Associated Press. Israelis held somber ceremonies today to mark a year since the deadliest attack in the country's history. A Hamas-led raid that shattered its sense of security that has since spiraled into wars on two fronts with no end in sight. Hamas marked the anniversary of its October 7th, 2023 attack by firing a barrage of rockets at Tel Aviv, underscoring its resilience after a year of war and devastation in Gaza. Lebanon's Hezbollah, which has been firing rockets into Israel for the past year in support of its ally Hamas, launched more than 170 across the border today. As Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to press Israel's campaigns on all sides, the military said fighter jets targeting Hezbollah positions bombarded southern Lebanon with more than 120 strikes in 1 hour. An earlier strike killed at least 10 Lebanese firefighters, the latest of dozens of first responders killed in recent weeks, according to the country's health ministry. Well, I can only say this. If you are a citizen of a country that is essentially led around by the nose, or even, in the case of Gaza, actually governed by terrorists, you can expect that when people respond to terrorist attacks with military force, that some of you are going to get killed. That's what you can expect. This is obviously an anti-Israeli piece on Associated Press, because once again, they're ignoring the realities of all of this. Israel didn't start this. Israel is finishing it. And they are being absolutely hamstrung by people around the world, especially the media, in them accomplishing that task. If there is to be peace in the Middle East, Hezbollah has got to go. If there is to be peace in the Middle East, Hamas has got to go. And somewhere in Tehran, Iran has to be wondering whether or not they're going to be the third on that list to go. You cannot perpetrate non-declared wars against a sovereign state and not be accused of war crimes. That's the most basic war crime. Nation states war on each other after writ of declaration of war with armies that carry insignia and soldiers wearing uniforms. That's how wars are practiced in the world. And I dare say that as uncivil as war is, it's kind of hard to put civilization on warfare. But there are rules. And the only people expected to follow those rules happens to be Israel, instead of the terror groups that they're fighting with. And that level of absurd hypocrisy just drives me nuts. It just drives me crazy. So, there's been a guy on this first anniversary. There's been a guy who's been talking about this for a very, very long time. And his name is Trey Yingst. Trey Yingst is talking about a book called Black Saturday. And I got to say that it's an amazing book. And I certainly hope that that more people buy it than don't. So here is a report from a Fox affiliate in Austin. And this is Trey Yingst talking about that book and talking about his year of experiences there.
Marks the first anniversary of Hamas's attack on Israel. In the book, Black Saturday, Fox News correspondent Trey Yingst shares his firsthand account of the attack. Trey joins us live from Haifa, Israel. Trey, you've seen it all throughout this last year in Israel. You've witnessed firsthand the devastation, the shock, horrific acts that have overtaken Israel. Day in, day out, you're reporting on the danger you're witnessing. It's so impressive. Not many people are cut out for what you do. First, we'll talk about your book, but can you paint a picture of one of your hardest days out there in Israel?
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough to pinpoint one exact day because we've been reporting on this story for the past year, not only on the ground inside Gaza, but here in Israel and recently in Lebanon. But I would say the day that we went into a community along the border called Be'eri, just after the October 7th massacre, before it was cleared of the people who were killed there, that was probably one of the most challenging days for me personally as a journalist and also for my team, because we saw the true aftermath of what took place to these civilians, innocent people who were in their homes. It was also quite difficult to go into Gaza and to see what was done to Palestinian civilians who lost everything and were displaced from their homes. And there are no winners in this war. There are no winners in any war. And so I try to get to the heart of that in my coverage to help people empathize with those on the ground affected by this conflict as it continues today.
It's so hard to watch. I'm so interested in what you have to say about covering this war. You've been in the Middle East since 2018. You've been on the front lines. I mean, it's a super dangerous job what you do. Tell us about Black Saturday, the book, what motivated you to write it.
Black Saturday is a book about humans. It's a book about the people affected. And it tells my story of responding to this breaking news on the morning of October 7th, being in southern Israel as the massacre was unfolding. But more importantly, it tells the stories of Israelis and Palestinians affected by this conflict. It's meant to shine light in dark places and to allow readers to go a little deeper into this story behind the scenes about what it was like for our team covering it, but also what it was like for the hostages who were dragged into Gaza and then later released as part of the November ceasefire deal. I interviewed some of them for this book, what it was like for Palestinian journalists and doctors who survived inside Gaza as the conflict unfolded, to provide a window into the suffering and devastation of war, and to leave people with a message of hope, but also of empathy, to realize that we're not so different from each other. And that if you stop for a second and allow me to humanize these individuals through our reporting, that you'll notice they're very much like you and I. And so that was the motivation behind writing this book, to allow people to not only educate themselves about what happened on October 7th and in the months that followed, but also to try and humanize the people involved.
You're taking a different approach on the war, and that's amazing. That's a part of the war that everyone needs to know about because they're humans just like you and I. What do you hope that people take home after reading this book?
I hope that they take home that you can hold space in your heart for two things. You can call for the release of Israeli hostages that are currently being held by Hamas as we speak, and you can also call for the protection of Palestinian civilians. Black Saturday as a book takes no side. It is not a pro-Israel book. It's not a pro-Palestine book. It's a pro-truth book. And that means being critical of those in power. It means holding those in power accountable and shining light into these dark stories. And so I hope that people take away that you can call for the protection of civilians and you can also call for the release of hostages, to be human and not to lose your humanity amid this already horrific situation.
Trey, thank you for what you're doing. Stay safe out there. Hang in there. We appreciate it. Your firsthand accounts. Black Saturday, you can find out on eBay,
so
Target.
that was Fox 7 in Austin, Texas, as they spend time talking with Trey Yingst on this war. And so when you try to put perspective on all this, when you try to say, okay, just exactly, where does this end, or where do we find ourselves trying to wrap our minds around all of this? I can say the following. There are people in the world that are driven by rabid, uncontrolled hatred toward anything. It can be, it isn't something that you can actually wrap your mind around. You know, I was listening to Trey Yingst on that, saying that these people are not so much different than you and I. Yeah, they are different than you and I. Because I got to be perfectly honest with you. You and I would not tolerate our neighbor throwing a Molotov cocktail into our backyard. Because, say, for example, oh, I don't know, didn't like the way my lawn looked. Or didn't like what church I went to. And, oh, by the way, if somebody who hates the fact that you're Catholic, for example, and throws a Molotov cocktail into your backyard, what do? Well, I call the cops. But what if they, after throwing the Molotov cocktail, start shooting through the fence? What do? Do you start shooting back? That's the situation that I see here. And so if you are someone who is driven by what I consider to be irrational hatred based on the fact that somebody goes to the wrong church, and you're willing to kill for it, that describes Hamas and Hezbollah. And Hamas and Hezbollah being these rogue organizations, they don't have any problem killing their own people. As a matter of fact, Hamas would fight to the very last Palestinian to prove that Israel was a terror state, when in fact they're not. Israel is not a terror state. Israel is a state. The Gaza Strip is a loose amalgam of frightened people, frightened about being killed by their own government, Hamas, and people that absolutely believe that Hamas can do no wrong and should go out and kill Jews every chance they get. And there's Hamas. So that's the tripartite that you find in Palestine. I often say, are there any innocent Palestinians? I'm not sure there are. But if there are, those would be the people that are afraid to speak out because they are afraid that Hamas would kill them. And who are those people? Well, we may never know because they're afraid to speak because Hamas might kill them, which is not an altogether unreasonable assumption that would be true. Same thing with Hezbollah. They don't have countries. There are no laws. There are no national priorities. There are no constitutions or bills of rights. There are none of those things in those terror organizations. There is kill or be killed. Support or die. And that's all there is. And then there are people who, for whatever reason, want to engender that hatred. And those are the kids on college campuses playing Hamas. They're not real. They are fake. They are fake Palestinians. They're just plain anti-Jewish bigots. Allowed to roam free because, well, they have their free speech rights. And they do. They do. But that doesn't mean that I have to go along with the fact that they're some kind of illegitimate fake force trying to play international terrorist. Now, at some point, will they become emboldened? Yeah. You've seen some people become emboldened and take up arms and start shooting people they disagree with. We saw it not once, but twice with regards to Donald Trump. I mean, we've seen Democrats take up arms against Republican congressmen on a baseball field. And the other end of that road is what we see in Gaza and in southern Lebanon and northern Israel and western Israel. That's what we see. Because at some point, things become too hot. The situation boils over. And you start throwing Molotov cocktails into your neighbor's yard because they don't go to the right church. That's not the country we live in, nor is it the country we want to live in. Unless I'm terribly, badly wrong. And I just can't wrap my mind around the fact that that could be the case. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in a moment.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Flying used to be really cool. As a matter of fact, flying was so cool, only cool people were ever able to fly because it was expensive. I mean, it was expensive to fly somewhere. If you could fly somewhere, well, then you were pretty cool. Yeah. Well, it's changed. Mainly because as an aggregate, air travel is a lot less expensive than it used to be. More flights, more airlines, more business philosophies, et cetera, driving the prices down. And when people used to take the bus, well, that wasn't terrible either, although I hate taking buses. But it wasn't the most horrible way of getting from one end of the country to the other. And you met a different kind of person on a bus than you'd meet in an airplane. And again, that's not something that has stood the test of time. People are people. And you meet just about everybody on an airplane, including a couple of young women who showed up on a Spirit Airlines flight the other day and incensed a male flight attendant.
Please turn it off. Are you part of the situation?
Okay, but the camera holds you guys accountable.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, there's nothing that says you can't wear a crop top.
And if you do
No,
that, then
what?
You're moving me and my toddler from a plane to go back home.
What the
So
heck?
you're going to do that as well.
Over
Because you
what?
can't treat humans that way. A business cannot treat humans this way. I'm not down.
I never had these in my life.
Yeah, and I took my sweater off too. And if her human body is not okay, then
What
neither
the
is
heck?
the rest of us.
Dude, just chill. What's the problem? I don't understand. He's gonna go back to the gate over you not wearing a sweater? Well, I recorded it, so.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah, what the fuck? They can't tell me not to record it.
Them accountable for.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They all agree. They're on our side. But this guy is trying to kick us out of the plane because she's wearing a crop top. And because I'm wearing a crop top. And now they're arguing.
So I was kicked out from the flight from Spirits because I'm wearing a crop top. She's kicking me out. I'm coming back to the gate. Me and my friend because we are wearing crop tops.
Yeah, TMZ got that. And yeah, those two girls were kicked off for wearing crop tops. There's nothing wrong with those crop tops. What was the problem with this male flight attendant? What's his issue? I don't know. I don't have any idea. Well, while we're talking about hot times on airplanes, there was a Frontier airline an airline flight that had a bit of a problem or two or three and landed in Las Vegas, much to the consternation of both the people watching it land and the people on the aircraft. Look at this.
Stunning video of a plane on fire on the runway after a mysterious mid-air emergency led to what airport officials call a hard landing in Las Vegas.
We have no communication with the pilot whatsoever. His radios are out. We have no communication with the pilot.
Tonight, the NTSB and FAA are investigating after the FAA says Frontier Airlines Flight 1326 from San Diego to Las Vegas yesterday made an emergency landing after reporting smoke in the cockpit. Passengers remember severe turbulence as the Airbus 321 approached the runway.
You felt a drop. Yeah, we landed and it was so hard. I felt it through my body. Just seconds after that, I told her, I think it's on fire.
Lucas Shook and Alondra Soto watched as firefighters doused the plane, adding they waited on board for close to an hour. Finally evacuated by firefighters, they say they saw the plane's tires blown out. Frontier saying no injuries were reported, adding the cause of the incident is currently under investigation. After reviewing emergency communications to and from the cockpit, NBC News aviation analyst and former FAA investigator Jeff Gazzetti believes this case will be complex.
I think this was a very serious incident. Something happened in that cockpit that created smoke and really challenged that flight crew.
A mid-air scare leaving unanswered questions on the ground. Maggie Vespa, NBC News.
So there you go. A tale of a couple of hotties. So we don't know what happened to the Frontier flight, and we don't know what's going to happen with the two girls kicked off of the Spirit Airlines flight. But what is happening? I mean, going back to the Spirit Airlines thing, I mean, those were not racy tops. Those were fine. They were just fine. And I have no idea why flight attendants believe that they are the lords of all clothing morality. Dude, really? Okay, so if you're in an airplane, how many people can you actually see? You can actually see the people on your left and right. You really can't see people in front of you unless you're on the aisle seat. And then you can only see their back. It's like, what's going on? Are we just becoming persnickety old snots that are just intolerant of just about everything? Or, I can't even think of an or. Like I can't think of anything redeeming about the Spirit Airlines flight attendant. Not one thing, except that he's going to be without a job because his airline is going to pay those girls a lot of money. This has been the Wells Report. Thanks very much for joining us. We will be back tomorrow, unless we're not. No, I think we'll actually be back tomorrow because I think my schedule is finally beginning to be solidified at my new job. And so I think we'll probably be going back to the morning hours. Right now, if I had to guess, it would be like between 10 and noon. So just keep the fire, as my friend John Antel says. Just hang with us as we go through this little readjustment. There is light on the other side. It's going to be fun and joyful. It will be great. And I certainly hope that you're there to see it. This has been the Wells Report for this 7th day of October, year of our Lord 2024. Take good care. Have a nice